welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. I'm your host, Sarah Jones. This is another fixture in our Minisode series where I talk to listeners just like you and hear your own personal ghost stories. For this Minisode, I got to speak to Jamie in Hartford, Connecticut about some creepy experiences that she had in a house in Manchester. Here's the call.
Hello.
Hi, is this Jamie?
It is.
Hi, Jamie. This is Sarah calling from Laughing in the Dark.
Oh, hi. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I actually completely forgot you were calling.
Oh,
That's
man.
Okay, though.
We used to send like reminder emails the day before, but we dropped the ball. Sorry.
No, that's okay. No worries.
Yeah. So, are you in Hartford, Connecticut? Is that what I understand?
So Hartford is the capital of Connecticut. The story I have is from Manchester, Connecticut. I no longer live in Manchester. I live in Tallinn now, but Manchester is where the story is that I have for you.
Okay. And when did the story take place?
So this story took place about 15 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. How old were you? You can ballpark if you don't want to.
I think I was 30 at the time.
Okay, so you're an adult and
Yep.
You're in Connecticut.
So a little like back history of Manchester. Manchester is home to the Cheney Mills, which was really big back in, I mean, I didn't really research it. I probably should have, but I grew up listening to the stories about those people.
Uh-huh.
So Manchester is really big for the Cheney Mills. I think it was a silk production they had going on. And the people who own that ended up getting very, very rich. And there's like Cheney mansions on Hartford Road in Manchester. There's like 6 or 7 of them. And then they had housing for their employees. And that was where I had lived, was in one of those houses. And like there's a historical marker on there and everything for it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, do you want me to just go right into the story?
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm already set up.
All right, cool. That's cool. So let me see here. So we get the apartment. I was still married at the time. We had 2 older kids. And one of the first instances I remember was when we first moved in. I moved in the first weekend by myself, and I was sleeping in the room by myself. But when I first got there was this huge black cat, like just showed up out of nowhere and spent the night. Next day, he actually disappeared, and I never seen the cat again.
Now, are you like superstitious? Like, did that stick out to you already?
Oh my God, yeah. Ever since I was a kid, I've seen strange things. So, you know what I mean? But this story that I have for you guys was, I mean, you know, I was an adult at the time. Once I grew up, I stopped seeing weird things. And the one instance that I have is just completely crazy. But yeah, I mean, if you want, I can start from the beginning, or I can just go right into that one particular story.
Let's start at the beginning. I have time, and I'm intrigued.
Okay. Oh, cool. So I remember we moved in, and we had a little. So with the black cat too, another weird thing. I don't know if it was because a friend of mine had passed away that weekend, and I decided not to go to his wake or not, and that's why that showed up. But when we had our housewarming party, it was very, very small. There was like 4 or 5 people that came over. And like I said, we had 2 older kids at the time, and they were sleeping in their beds, or they had gone to bed, and everybody's in the kitchen. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this shadow of a child run into the living room from the stairs. So I don't say anything to anybody. I go into the living room, and I go and I check, and there's nobody in there at all. And I'm thinking, wow, how did they get back upstairs so quick? So I go back up there and I check on them. Both the kids are sleeping. Come back downstairs, and I'm a bit perplexed because I know I saw this, you know. And
right.
My girlfriend goes to me, she goes, I saw that too. She goes, when your kid's up? I'm like, no, I don't know. As long as you saw it, I know I'm not going crazy.
Right.
And then, yeah, so, you know, there's other little things too that I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm trying to make it quick because I know you have a lot to do. But the one big thing
we have like half an hour to talk, unless you are trying to rush.
Well, I just got out of work, so I'm driving, but that's okay though. So the big thing I had was when we moved in, so we rented, and like I said, the Cheneys in Manchester, there was a whole bunch of controversy about them. Like they got so greedy with their money that they like married within each other, and like the family went crazy and this and that and blah, blah, blah. It's a very interesting story, but the attic, my landlord had decided to renovate. It was a walk-up attic, you know, very old. It was a very old house, and like the attic kind of like did a halfway spiral thing. And at the bottom of it was a window. And then, of course, the closet for the other room and then a window going out there. But when she renovated it, it ended up being 2 rooms. One was a full room with a door. The other room was like right near the stairs. There was a half wall. So it was like kind of like almost like a loft almost, that half wall right there by the stairs. And when we moved in, we had made the room that was a loft an art room. And it was about, I don't know, probably about midnight or somewhere around that time. And I'm sitting in there and I'm doing my thing. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I see this lady. She's dressed all in black in like a Victorian style dress. She has this high neck collar on, salt and pepper hair with like an old school bun. And I mean, I got to tell you, I was so scared. I couldn't scream, talk. I just sat there and looked at her like she was there, absolutely 100% there. And she didn't look at me or anything. She was completely 100% ramrod straight. And it was almost like she had stepped out of the door, because where the door was to the other room was right on the other side of the staircase. And she just stood there for like, probably 30 seconds. In my mind, it seemed like an eternity because, that was just crazy.
Right.
And she's standing there. All of a sudden, she turns very ramrod straight and she starts walking down the stairs. And the reason why I mentioned about the half wall there, because all I saw was her head descending as she went down the stairs. And I sat there for a good 10, 15 minutes. I didn't, because everybody else was down on the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
And, I get up and there's nobody there at all.
God.
So, I mean, that was the only time that I actually ever really saw like a quote unquote apparition there. I had ended up getting pregnant while we were living there. And I guess I had done some weird things when I was sleeping. I guess I would tell my husband at the time to stop messing with me. I know the doctor's downstairs, and I do have visions of seeing a doctor down on the bottom of the first floor stairs with him, some kind of like medical bag, looking up there and smiling. But I mean, there's other things too now that I'm thinking about it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. And then once our youngest son was like a year, I remember we were sitting in the living room. We had an entertainment center, and we had a bunch of DVDs in there. And I was asking what he wanted to watch for a movie. And out of the entertainment center just flew a DVD box and landed right next to us.
Whoa. How long did you live in this home for?
I think 8 years, how long we lived there.
8 years. So it wasn't enough for you to want to move out. So it seems like, I mean, you said you're a superstitious person, but did you enjoy it? Like, was it kind of exciting? Did you hate it? Like,
I gotta tell you, so it wasn't so much exciting as it was, they felt like good presences. I think a lot of like the lady, for instance, I don't even think she really knew that she was dead. I think she was just like walking around in her home and she didn't even see us, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because when she had walked out of the room that night, or she'd actually appeared outside the door, so I'm assuming she walked out of the room, she didn't give me any kind of acknowledgement that she even saw me there. I definitely saw her there. That was a scary thing. But
and then
the
to
only
see
one
her
that really
move too. I feel like, because if I've actually seen an apparition, but I didn't really see her move. I guess for some reason, maybe just because that's not part of my experience, is why I think it'd be like, well, that would be different. But
it was creepy for sure. It was totally creepy.
I would think it was. Were you sitting at the bottom of the stairs too? So like,
no, I was. Oh. So I was on the attic ended up being 2 rooms. One room was a full room and then, full wall and it had a door. Then was the stairs, and then was that half like wall right there.
Uh-huh.
So I was on the other side because that was a loft and we had made that an art room. And I just happened to look up and she was standing at the top of the stairs. So I'm assuming that she had walked out of that room that had the door, and then she proceeded to walk down the stairs. And the reason why I say the half wall, because in my memory, I just remember seeing her head descend as she went down until she actually, her head was underneath the wall and I couldn't see her anymore. Because at first I honestly 100% thought there was somebody in the house.
Right. Huh.
But yeah, I was on the same floor as she was, but because of the fact there wasn't a full wall that separated that room from the stairs, it was just a half wall. I was able to see. I mean, it was like a landing almost. Where she stood, there was no wall, but where the stairs were, there was the half wall. So I was able to see her walk down the stairs.
That's crazy.
It was so friggin' creepy. I mean, the only instance that it actually creeped me out was the the doctor, because I had dreamt about him a couple of times, and it was always within that house. Like I never, like I don't even know anything about any old school doctors or
Right.
or any kind of like home apparatuses or anything like that. So that he was the only one that really freaked me out.
Did he seem sinister, or what? Like, what about him freaked you out?
It was just the way that because he always would appear at the bottom of the stairs, not at the attic stairs where I'd seen that woman, but at the first floor stairs where, the living room and the dining room were. He'd always appear right at the foot of the stairs there. He would never move, and he just like smiled up the stairs. And here's another creepy thing. So I got a dog, and the dog was actually laying on the landing where those stairs were. He was sleeping, wakes up, and he starts growling for no reason whatsoever. And I was sitting on the couch about 10 feet away from him. He looks up the stairs, looks back at me, looks back up the stairs, and walks and sits right next to me and starts growling at whatever he had seen, which was the same spot where I would always see that. I guess we can just call him a doctor. I don't know what else to call him. But I tried investigating the house to see.
I was just gonna ask that, because it's with the dog growling at it too. Like I feel like dogs, when they see a person, they either get like excitable and like are wagging their tail and stuff, or growling like that is like, I don't know. It seems like a bad sign.
He was sound asleep too, and there was nobody. Yeah, there was nobody else in the house. So whatever he was seeing, I was not seeing at all.
Whoa.
And for him to get up and then sit right next to my leg and just growl, whatever it was, that had really freaked me out too.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, so when this had happened, the internet was available, but I don't think it was as intricate as it is now, because I do remember going to the library because I wanted to see who had lived there. And the funny thing is, too, is I had told my landlord about this. I don't know if this is important or not, but that was when she actually got the marker put on the house, because there was no marker on the house when I had moved in at all.
Huh.
Yeah. Because I had told her about it. She's like, "Oh yeah, this used to be a teeny house for their workers." Because you got to understand. I know you're based on the West Coast, but it was like a real big deal for Manchester. They had probably about 12 or 13 mills all scattered across Manchester. A couple of them they turned to apartment buildings. Some of them are like museums now for the kids to take field trips on. That's like Manchester's kind of like Call to Fame almost, except for our Thanksgiving road race.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the stories and the controversy around the actual teenies, the stories just keep coming. Of course, you don't know what's real and what's not real, because rumors fly, and
Sure.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah. So what did you find out when you went to the library?
I couldn't find out anything, to be honest with you. I mean, this is 15 years ago. I couldn't find out who owned the house, who lived in the house. It was like all information was barred just for that one particular house. I mean,
yeah,
it was pretty interesting. Because I wanted to see, but this was probably about 6 months after the incident had occurred with the woman, and I wanted to see who this lady was. I knew for a fact I had seen this. Everybody else thought I was crazy. No, I legitimately saw this. I wasn't, being funny or wonky or even sleeping. I was up there doing art, and this lady, I gotta tell you, Sarah, when I saw her, I was so scared. I had no reaction. I just sat there. I couldn't scream.
Right.
I didn't even want to move. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, so, that's like they say fight, flight, or freeze. Like it's like the reactions to basically trauma, like terror. Yeah,
I froze for sure. And when I 5 minutes have passed, and I really wanted to go downstairs, because like we didn't have cell phones back then. Cell phones weren't a big thing. You had car phones back then. So it wasn't like, hey, can you go to the foot of the stairs, see if there's some creepy lady in a black dress standing there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had to build up the courage to like actually go and look down the stairs. And yeah, she wasn't there. And I went flying down the stairs. I was like, you won't ever believe what I just saw. I'm like, he and my husband aren't together anymore, but he would have strange dreams too. Like he would have dreams. I can't really remember the details of them, but the dreams were he was walking around inside, and he never slept walk or anything like that, but he was like walk around the house, and he'd be talking to people, and he'd wake up. He goes, I'm really kind of confused. I don't know if I was just, sleeping or what was going on.
Huh. And he said you did strange things while you were sleeping too, right?
Well, he would tell me that there was only when I was pregnant with our son that I would tell him to stop screwing with me, because I know the doctor's here and I want to see the doctor or whatever the case may be. And the only time I ever remember saying that to him was I was still sleeping when this had happened, and I'd woken up, and he would, he'd tell me that I'd freak him out. And I would tell him, well, I dreamt about a doctor's foot at the stairs, but I mean, I don't recall ever telling you that to stop screwing with me. I know the doctor's here, like that I just don't remember.
Huh. Interesting. Well, that's awesome. I kind of want to learn more about the house too, but it is difficult. Like I've tried to look up the history of houses that I've seen an apparition in, and it's still tough. Even like with the internet the way it is now, you look up an address and it's just like the Zillow website for it's not you're not finding out who used to live there, or, I'm sure you can pay to do that, but I don't want to do that either. But God, that's fascinating. So have you ever had other paranormal experiences, or was it just in this one particular house?
No, when I was a kid growing up, my grandmother and my grandfather had bought a house. It was like a new development, but the thing is, though, it was originally some kind of like big fairgrounds, and they had one of their fairs going on one year, and it actually caught on fire, and a lot of people had perished in that fire. Ooh. And where she had bought, afterwards they had, of course they closed it down and they built these houses. So as a child growing up in these houses, growing up in the house that she had bought, there was a lot of paranormal. I mean, there'd be, I swear to God, I'd see this tall man walking around the hallway at nighttime. There was times where I remember one time, I think I was 3 or 4 years old, we had this credenza in the living room, and excuse my French, but shit just hit the fan. I just remember things being thrown everywhere. My mother was so scared, because it was just me and her in the house at the time, that she locked us in the bathroom until I don't really remember what happened after that, because I was really, really young. But, I remember too having two friends, a friend named Tammy, and then there was this guy named Henry. Tammy was my friend, and Henry actually pushed me down the stairs one time. There's a picture of me when I was 3 years old laying in my grandmother's bed. Because I fell backwards down a whole full flight of stairs. I had 2 huge black eyes. My nose was broken. Yeah. I mean, they don't believe me that anybody pushed me down the stairs, but I totally, and like, even to this day, I sometimes dream about that house. And
wait, it was a ghost pushed you down the stairs?
Yeah.
Oh God, that's horrible. That's scary.
That house, that house was just a bad, bad house. There's a lot. I remember one time. So when I had my oldest son, I was staying with my grandmother. Everybody, except for my mother, was out. And I couldn't sleep. I remember I was sleeping in the living room. My son was in his bassinet. And I couldn't sleep. All of a sudden, I started hearing carnival music. I'm not lying to you. Now, my oldest son, the one that I'm talking about, he's 26 now. So this is a long time ago this happened. And I just happened, and I couldn't fall asleep. I wasn't sleeping. I just happened to look up. And on my son's bassinet was a speaker, like a little, probably like a foot wide by a foot tall type of speaker, with a wire coming out of it. And I looked, and there was nothing attached to the wire, like it was frayed. And I don't know why, I'm getting the chills now thinking about it. It just really freaked me out. But like I said, ever since a little kid, I've always just sensed bad things inside my grandmother's house. Like there's some good energy, but there was just like a lot of bad energy. So I remember my grandmother wasn't home. I remember going to her room. I don't know why I went to her room, but she had this closet. And I opened it up, and you know what? I saw this. I don't even know what to explain it. It was feminine in form, but it was like, I call it the swamp thing, because it was like dirty and kind of wet looking, but it definitely had like feminine features to it. And she just started laughing at me. So I ran out of there and into my mother's room. Yeah. And I ran out of there. I ran into my mother's room. I opened up the door, and I said, Mom, my mother just sits up slowly. I don't know. I'm telling you, I might have been dreaming, but I'm like 99.9% sure I was not. She gets up slowly, sits up, and like gives me this crazy smile and shakes her head yes. And then that speaker that was on my son's bassinet was on her bed. Oh. And then that's all I remember of that. That was just the craziest thing. And I remember
that wasn't a dream. That was real.
I'm 99.9% sure, because I remember I was on the couch and I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't fall asleep. And I heard the carnival music playing.
Oh,
yeah.
That gave me the chills. That is just, it's not easy to give me the chills. I'll give you that too.
No,
that is
tell you too, Sarah,
horrifying.
I've never told anybody that story, because I don't even like to talk about it, because the thing that I saw in my grandmother's closet was just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. It was. I can't even tell you just how creepy it was.
Thanks so much for your call, Jamie. This was such a fascinating story. If you have a great ghost story, we want to hear from you. Email us at litdarkpodcast@gmail.com and tell us all about your ghost story. We may choose you to feature you on the show. As always, thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time right here on Laughing in the Dark. Laughing in the Dark is brought to you in part by Heck Yeah Studio. Heck Yeah Studio is a creative effort working with people to create meaningful things. At Heck Yeah Studio, they work with clients to turn their ideas or existing brands into real or better versions. Heck Yeah Studio is the place to go for custom illustration for a full range of branding services, like killer logos, great colors and typography, and fun illustrations for pins, signs, prints, shirts, vehicles, posters, or anything you can imagine. At Heck Yeah Studio, they work with love. Their dream client is someone who is passionate about what they do. At Laughing in the Dark, Heck Yeah Studio has designed our logo, all of our merch, and any posters or stickers that we have. I am so proud and lucky to work with such an awesome company, and I could not recommend them higher.
Carnival Studios.